Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tearing down a brand new productivity tool that is making some, frankly, massive promises on the App Store. It's called Momentum, Energizing Habits. Look, if you've ever struggled with that dreaded afternoon slump or found it just completely impossible to stick to a new routine, well, this app claims to hold the magic solution. But we gotta ask, does the reality actually match all this polished marketing? We're gonna break down the features, the actual costs, and the real user feedback to find out exactly what's going on behind the icon.
Here is our roadmap for today's teardown. We've got Meet Momentum, high-energy habit mechanics, the price of productivity, app privacy and updates, and finally, the final user verdict. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Meet Momentum, the hype and the heritage.
So before we even look at the features, we need to know what this 52.6 megabyte download actually represents in the super crowded productivity space. Momentum isn't just some random app you stumbled across. It's actually built by Ali Abdaal and his team at Odyssey Labs. Now, when a high-profile creator with a massive following in the productivity world builds a dedicated tool, man, it sets incredibly high expectations right out of the gate. Odyssey Labs already has a portfolio with apps like Super Present and Super Focus, so Momentum is stepping into an ecosystem that's built entirely around optimizing your time, your attention, and your daily output.
Moving on to Section 2, High-Energy Habit Mechanics, what it actually does.
So how exactly do they plan to meet those sky-high expectations? Well, the ultimate marketing promise is right there in the app's tagline, feel energized all day. They aren't just trying to help you mindlessly tick boxes on a to-do list. No, they want to completely eliminate those unpredictable energy-draining afternoon slumps. The stated goal here is to help you build consistent, high-energy blocks of focus that literally carry you through the entire day. That's a massive promise for a single piece of software, right? They plan to achieve this through 3 specific pillars. First up, designing high-energy rituals. These are the actual tangible habits and protocols you want to build into your routine. Second is accountability. The app lets you set up a squad of friends who literally have your back, making consistency feel way less like a chore and more like a shared mission. And third, gamifying the whole shebang. They use detailed stats and leaderboards to keep you hooked on your own progress. This gamification is essentially the secret sauce designed to keep you opening the app day after day.
Section 3. The price of productivity. Hitting the paywall. Okay, let's dive into this. We've seen the grand vision and the polished mechanics, but we absolutely have to talk about the financial reality. Momentum strictly requires a subscription to access all those high-energy features. You're looking at an early bird membership that breaks down into 3 auto-renewing tiers. You've got $199 weekly, $899 monthly, or $59.99 annual commitment. These payments are charged directly to your Apple ID account, and yeah, they renew automatically unless you proactively cancel. It is a rigid paywall, and you absolutely need to know this up front before you even tap download.
Section 4. App privacy and updates. Under the hood.
You know, evaluating any modern app means looking really closely at your data footprint. Notice how Odyssey Labs separates things out here. Data linked directly to your identity, like your email address and your specific user ID, is siloed away from standard diagnostic data. Things like crash reports, performance data, and your device ID remain completely anonymous. It's pretty standard privacy division in the dev world, but it is always crucial to verify exactly what personal info you're trading for access to a platform.
And that software ecosystem, it's evolving rapidly. Looking at their version history, they are actively pushing meaningful updates, showing some real momentum, pun intended, in their development cycle. In September 2025, they rolled out squad invite codes. By November, they introduced weekly habits, followed really quickly by home screen widgets in December, so users can stay on track without even opening the app. And most recently, version 1.1 in February 2026 brought critical bug fixes. This timeline basically proves the developers are deeply invested in actively building out the app's functionality.
Section 5. The final user verdict, expectation versus reality.
So how are actual users responding out in the wild? Well, on one end of the spectrum, the app genuinely delivers. We've got 5-star reviews calling it an absolute game changer, specifically praising the squads feature as being incredibly helpful. For these users, that core accountability mechanic of checking in with friends is successfully creating the exact momentum and energy the developers promised. But we've got to immediately contrast that with the 1-star reality. Other users are leaving reviews calling the app overpriced and annoyed for wasting my time, with the primary frustration being that it, quote, requires a purchase.
This really highlights the massive friction users feel when they download what looks like a free app, expecting to just casually try it out, only to immediately hit that hard paywall we discussed earlier.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the massive divide we see in the overall rating. Across current ratings, Momentum sits at exactly 3.3 out of 5 stars. Now, in the App Store, that is a highly polarizing score. Apps typically skew either overwhelmingly positive or they just plunge to negative extremes. A 3.3 reflects a user base split right down the middle, between fans who absolutely love the creators' mechanics and the support of squads, and critics who just feel totally blindsided by the upfront subscription cost and limited free utility.
Which brings us to our final takeaway. We've seen the high-profile team behind the software, the rapid feature updates, and the core goal of turning afternoon slumps into high-energy blocks. But we've also seen the strict paywall and a highly divided user base. So I'm going to leave you with this. In a world where productivity tools are heavily commoditized, is the promise of peak energy and squad accountability actually worth $60 a year? Or are you just paying for digital peer pressure? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this teardown helps you decide your next move.